up, what up, what up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, to Shut Up, Let's Talk, episode 91. Joined along here with Ruben Espinosa today.
What's going on, bud?
How are you, man? Good to see you, dude.
I'm excited.
I'm excited as well, man. Thank you for coming by, guys. I know that we replaced all the toys on the table with all sorts of guns right now.
I call them my toys, really.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, you brought your collection over. Thanks for being on the show today, my man. How are you, bro?
I've been good. Can't complain. Just been
taking it easy,
living the life, you know.
I haven't seen you since high school, dude.
I know, it's been a long time.
It's been an extremely long time, man. Where have you, are you a father now?
I am.
Dude,
I
congratulations,
got a baby boy.
man.
It's 2 years old.
Woo!
So
congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Can you hear us and everything? We're good? My bad. I just want to make sure that we can be heard and seen.
Don't want to be censored, right?
No, I don't. Okay, anyway, guys, thank you everybody for hanging out on episode 91 of Shut Up, Let's Talk. Thank you everybody who's been listening on Spotify lately. We've been getting some cool Spotify listeners. Shout out to the Weed Tube for sponsoring the content. Wow, you got some good speakers on your phone.
Yeah.
What phone is that?
That's the Note 9.
The Note 9, dude. That sounded like IMAX in this piece. Anyway, man, Ruben, what do you do, my man? What is your life, dude? Thanks for coming by.
All right. So, in short, joined the Army right after we left high school.
Nice.
I got injured, so I came back home.
Shout out to the Army.
Yeah, shout out. Thank you for all my brothers and sisters overseas, fighting the good fight. So, essentially, right after that, came back home. I got married at 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, how was that?
It was like a Dear John letter kind of story, but without the sad ending. You know, this actually worked out. I had met my wife I think 3 weeks before I left basic.
Whoa.
And pretty much just I left for basic, came back. She surprised me at my graduation. She drove up all the way to South Carolina with my family, who she had only met once. Right,
that's the one you want to make the mother of your kids, right? Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good idea.
I did.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Good choice, man. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been doing well, from what I see, man. That's great.
Yeah. So then from up there, I just pretty much went to school. Now I work for Enterprise Rent a Car.
Awesome.
That's a pretty good career to be in. So
cool, man. So how was the Army life for you, man? So when did you join? At 19?
Yeah. I had left for basic that September of the year we graduated, 2010.
What was the Army life like, man? What did your parents think of that? Were they supportive, or did they not want you to?
You know, it's funny. A lot of people did not expect me to join. Actually, a lot of people.
You were in ROTC, right?
I was in ROTC, but I wasn't gun ho like everybody else was. I was just I was enjoying the program. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until senior year that I was really focused and really in on it. I originally just took a JROTC just for credit,
Oh, nice.
And then it really grew on me. But then, with my parents, it was more I knew that they weren't able to save up money for me to go to school. Mm. So I was going to have to figure out stuff for myself. And okay. I saw the Army as an option. It's really funny because when we were in high school, I was actually, our junior year, I was considered a freshman.
Why is that?
Credit-wise. I had a 1.3 GPA. All right. And by November of our senior year, I had done what I had to do, get it done, and I graduated.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. That's awesome, man.
So
that's crazy though. I didn't know that at all.
But as far as the Army life, man, I feel like everybody should go through it.
Sorry, not to cut you off at all. Yeah. What attracted you to the Army? Compared to, the Marines or anything like that, or the Air Force.
You say that because I actually was gonna go to the Marines first. I was actually gonna join the Marines with Oren.
Oh, okay, good. Shout out to Oren.
Oren Camejo.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers that guy.
He was hilarious, man.
So
people didn't know what to do with his humor at the time. They didn't know what to do with it. He was brilliant. Yeah, he still is. I'm sure.
It was like the Wayne brothers fused together, and then you had.
He was funny, man.
What's his name?
I gotta find him anyway. Yes, man.
So I actually went to join the Marines first, and then they had when I had chose my job, then they told me actually that won't be your job, that could be your job, and I was like, but this is what I want to do. They're like, yeah, no, if you want to pick your job, you got to go to the Army, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that then. So that's when I went to the Army. I actually had a really awesome job. I was supposed to be a satellite. Army? Yeah, well, not in the Army when I was getting in.
Oh, okay.
I had selected a satellite imaging operator.
Oh.
So essentially, drones would take pictures. I would have to decide. It was the short, simple answer would be looking at images, deciphering what's on the image, and then based on that, depending if it was intel or what we were going to bomb or whatever, something like that, I was the one who's going to decide that and decipher that from the image from the drones.
Big responsibility, man.
Yeah, I lost that job because when I went through my medical exams, I was labeled colorblind. So
no way.
Yeah, so I restricted a lot of jobs for me.
Wow.
So it was either infantry, tank operator, mechanic, or driver. So I chose mechanic because I figured I could make a trade of it afterwards. So and that's exactly what I did.
Oh, good
so
move.
I'm actually a certified diesel mechanic, but I can't do the work because of my injuries.
Oh, no way,
Yeah,
man. All
yeah.
right. So, well, okay, that's a lot to unpack right there. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
So you're a diesel mechanic. Tell us about the injuries. How'd you get these injuries?
So what happened to me was I was doing rappel training. We were getting ready for our first deployment.
Whoa.
And the ballet downstairs, he yanked the rope out of my hand. And so when I pushed off the wall, he took my rope. Now, the ballet is your safety. So he's supposed to hold on to the rope, walk back, and if you are falling, you fall on him instead of the floor. So since he took that rope out of my hand and let go, I fell, hit the floor at 45 feet. And jacked up my back, my hip, and my knee. Yeah,
dude, my bad. It took me a second. It took me a second to like absorb all that information because that just sounds like. Now, just to put in perspective, like Owen Hart, the wrestler, like when he fell, like how far did he fall? Well, he fell like 100 feet, didn't he?
I think so. I think he fell like from really far, but like
the point is for you, 50 feet, 45 feet is a long way down.
But it wasn't concrete that I fell on. Okay,
grass or something.
Since we were training, no, what they use is shredded rubber tires.
Okay, cool.
And they use that so it's rubber, so when you fall, it's kind of like it breaks the fall and stuff.
Still,
but what helped me was because when he took the rope out and I swung in, I hit my head on the right side and I blacked out because I pushed off 12 feet and I was 200 pounds. So then 200 pounds of meat just swinging and cracking your head. So I blacked out from that and then I fell and hit that. And so really it was all just muscular. And I didn't break any bones because I didn't tighten up on the fall. It's kind of like a drunk driver in a car accident, pretty much.
Dude, that's wild, man.
So, but had I been conscious, I'd probably be dead or a quadriplegic.
Dude, well, I'm glad you're not either of those things, man. It's good to have you here with us, man. Jeez.
I appreciate it.
And yeah, man, obviously I was not laughing at what happened. I was laughing at the fact that he called himself a 200-pound sack of meat. What'd you say? A piece of meat?
200 pounds of sack of meat. You know.
Anyway, man.
I'm 300 pounds sack of meat now.
That's perfectly fine, man. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out tonight. What's going on, Steve? What's going on, Chris? What's going on? And if everybody else has any questions, if you guys have any questions you guys want to ask about guns, and if you guys are interested about anything, we're going to unpack a lot tonight. So there's a lot of info. I mean, this is mostly, you know, I normally I do research and stuff like that. This one I kind of wanted you to teach me the ways because there's nothing. I don't know what to look up when it comes to guns. What do I look up?
Here's what I would say. This is the analogy I like to use with people who don't have any knowledge, and I use this against like when people talk about but the media says this and the media says this. And here's the general question: would you go to your dentist to do your oil change?
Okay.
You know, like, or would you go to an actual mechanic and do your oil change, right? So same respect. Are you going to listen to someone who sits behind a desk, talks to a camera all day, and is only fed information that they have to say on camera? Or would you actually listen to somebody who does this every day, someone who has experience with it, and you know what I mean? Like, that would be the person you should be listening to because I think they'd be the expert in this, you know, instead of just being fed information.
Right. Well, I mean, the media is such a like blanket term that people use these days, you know, and I'm not on any side here. First of all, just to preface this, if anybody's here thinking that I'm on a certain political side or we're going anywhere political with this, that's really not the idea. You know, I really don't even care about politics. To me, that is like a Siegfried and Roy. That is a magic show. You know, they could tell you everything they're going to tell you, but don't, you know, there's a trick to everything. So it's fine. Exactly. They, you know, it's just like the media, they will only tell you what they want to tell you. Like, it's not like...
Exactly.
It's all biased.
And actually, tonight I want to leave politics completely out of it, and we can have that conversation because what we're doing tonight is to actually ask constructive questions. Right. So let's leave the left and the right out of it. Let's actually focus on what these are, how they function, okay, and how we apply that in certain situations. If a question comes up like, what about this? What about this? That's fine.
Yes.
Let's try to avoid, the right wing this, left, right, you know. Let's leave that out of it. Let's
talk about the object.
Exactly. Let's talk about the object that's being scrutinized for people. Like, you know, it's the same thing as we always argue, you know. Do we blame the truck or the drunk driver? You know, same respect. You know, so
that makes sense.
That's what we're going to be discussing about.
So let's find a place to start with this whole thing. So let's talk about the just the word, you know, the guns in general. How did you become like how did you look at these things and think this is a cool piece of technology? And everybody does it with something. Me, I like guitars. Some people like vehicles. Other people, you know, everybody has a thing that they enjoy. So
everybody gets into it.
Yeah. So how did this become the thing that you're like, this is badass?
All right. So for me, I would have to say, actually, I didn't get into guns until after the Army. I didn't really have any base knowledge other than I think my dad showed me his little 22 rifle in his closet when I was 5 years old, and that was probably the last time I ever saw it. I got into paintballing. You know, I guess paintballing was my gateway drug, you want to say?
Makes sense. It makes sense.
But aside from that, like, it's really just the application of what it's for. You know, I've been put in situations where I've had a gun drawn on me 3 times and I didn't have a firearm, and I've literally talked myself out of that situation. But it's funny because it's happened to me in a club. It happened to me at one of our Miami Tech high school party.
Wow.
I was dancing with a girl, and the guy was all drugged out, and he was just trying to show beef. You know, and then I think the third time was in Seattle. I was walking down the street and the guy had tried to rob me, and I just flashed him my wallet, and he saw my concealed carry badge, and I guess he must have thought I was a cop and just ran off, and I just walked off from there. But I didn't have my gun with me.
Go die, you fuckface.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, which sounds rough. But I mean, if you're doing that to people, like, why should you deserve to live when there's like other people that deserve to? I mean, everybody has a right to life, not until you threaten somebody else's.
Exactly. It's the same way with free speech, right? You have the right to say whatever you want as long as you don't incite violence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
As long as you don't tell people, hey, you should go kill someone. That's not free speech anymore. Now you're telling people to commit violence.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So, you know, just because someone has a gun doesn't make them a bad guy or a good guy. You don't know until you see what he's going to do.
The intention.
The intention, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense, man. And you know, it's funny. One of the things I wanted to ask you tonight is, have you been in those, have you been in situations where you needed to protect yourself and weren't able to, you know, and clearly that's happened to you more than a few times, which, you know.
I'll tell you about a story. 6 months after I came back home, me and my brother were out off of 67th, you know where the Burger King is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're out there, we're going to the drive-thru, and when we're leaving, 3 guys are running through the parking lot. And these 2 guys knock one of the guys, knocks this one guy down. They start beating the crap out of him. And my brother's like 15. He's with me. He's like, Ruben, let's go. Like, and I'm like, what if that guy dies tonight? You know, like, we should do something. He's like, no, go home. And I tell him no. So I open the door. I put my window down. I use my military training. And I go to reach. I don't have my gun on me. So I tell my brother, open the glove compartment. My gun's not there.
Oh, shit.
So I then proceed to get back in the car, and I use my car, and I hit these guys with the car.
Nice.
I back up in reverse. That's when they pull out these big knives. They pull out those kitchen knives that you used to chop carrots with.
Oh, my God.
Right? And then they try to stab this guy, so I start revving my engine to use my car again. After I hit them, bro, one of the guys that clicked, hey, let's get out of here, okay? This guy clearly is going to hit us again. The other guy was so determined to stab this guy. He got back up and went to slice him. The guy put up his hand and defended himself, and he was cut from here all the way to his palm.
Shit.
All right. Then they jumped in their little Honda Civic. I was in a Pathfinder, so I was in this giant SUV. I wasn't going to catch up to these guys, but I tried. I chased them on Palmetto. I tried to get their license plate. They zipped off onto 75. I turned back around. In that time, I called 911 while we were on the road. We got back to the plaza. I took my tie off. I got my cane, and I made a tourniquet for his hand.
Nice.
Thankfully, they didn't hit an artery, so he was good.
Right.
But
damn, he's lucky you were there.
Right. And in that time, the cops and the paramedics still didn't get there, and that was a course of 15 minutes. That whole interaction. Yeah. And so, granted, I had called them after I chased them.
Right. Well, I mean, you're caught in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to react. I had to make decisions. I had to make on-the-spot decisions. But about 5 to about 8 minutes after I called the cops, then they just got there. Now, mind you, there's a firefighter house right there.
Yeah, it's like right around the corner.
It still took them 8 minutes to get to me.
Wow.
So
dude.
in that time, in a course of 20 minutes, if I had my firearm, that situation would have been handled in less than 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
instantly.
Now in that situation, right? Most people are like, oh, you know, I would have shot them right there and then. No, actually, because in that situation, you have to think about the legal implications.
Yes.
Okay. So their back is turned to me, right? I'm facing their back. If you shoot anybody in the back, regardless if you're concealed carrying, unless they're abruptly going to take someone's life, you shoot them in the back, it's automatic manslaughter.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Make sure you guys learn that.
That's right. So let's say here's a situation. Let's say you got somebody who's holding you at knife point and they rob you. You give them everything you got, and you wait until he turns around and you shoot him in the back. Now you're going to jail for murder.
Wow.
Because he was not a threat anymore.
Oh.
He wasn't a threat anymore. He turned his back to you. The knife is gone. He's not a threat. He's getting away. You're safe. Now, if he, so these are the things that people need to learn when they're concealed carrying. It falls on us as, and that's where it's really important. Carrying a gun is if you know somebody who's carrying a gun legally, you do not understand the amount of risk that they're taking for their families, for themselves.
It's true. And I've had friends that have concealed carry licenses, and they do their thing and whatever, and it's always funny because as soon as they walk in, everybody, like, as soon as you see the thing, everybody just kind of like, there's like a silence that falls,
Yeah.
And then everybody decides, if they have a friend who gets violent when he's drunk or some sort of situation, like, anything like, first of all, you can't drink around. You were telling me some stuff that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes complete sense. You should not be drinking while you are
carrying,
or anything like that. So yeah, obviously that's a good thing. But what are some of these laws and stuff like that, man? Like, what are more things that you can tell us? Like, what like you can't if you have. I don't even know where to begin.
You don't even know where to begin. No worries.
You open me up on it, man.
I'll get us started here. So let's talk about concealed carry in general. Okay, you can't conceal carry within 100 feet of a school, government building, anything that there's a government official right there. Okay. If it is posted at a business that a firearm is not allowed, technically they have the right to refuse service until they know you're carrying a gun. So, for example, if I walk into Walmart and I'm concealed carrying, I can shop to my leisure until if someone notices or reports me and they ask me to leave, then I should leave, because now the business is refusing service, which they have that right to do. Mm-hmm. But now look at what just happened to Walmart a couple of days ago. So you have a store that, I don't remember if that Walmart had placed, no firearms allowed unless legally carrying. I didn't look at the door or anything like that. Got into a discussion about that on Facebook earlier. But aside from that, so for example, if I'm concealed carrying a pistol, I cannot be near or inside a bar because you're not allowed to be around alcohol while carrying a gun.
That's a good thing.
Right. It is. It's
a very good thing.
It's to keep situations from, because you get drunk and then you're not the right state of mind.
Right.
So that's why they made it that way. Let's see another situation where.
Oh, you were also telling me about medical marijuana.
So on medical marijuana. So when you're purchasing a firearm, right? ATF has just amended their 4473, the form they have to fill out when you're going to go purchase a gun. And there it states if you own or possess or have a medical marijuana card, you can't. If you answer yes on that question, you cannot. The firearms, the guy who's handling the gun store will take that form from you and not sell you a gun.
Wow.
Legally, he can't sell you a gun. And that's the problem. This is how they're disarming us as citizens. Okay. It's either get your medicinal, what you need for your health, or own a firearm. Because now, for having this, legally, you cannot go to any legal gun store and purchase a firearm anymore.
So they're making you choose.
They're making you choose. Defend yourself or keep yourself, whatever issues you have.
Or smoke some weed, I guess, yeah.
Exactly.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, damn, a lot of, and I didn't know that. I'm sure a lot of people at home did not know that. Do any of you guys have medical marijuana licenses at home? Thank you, Steve, Kevin, Haley, for hanging out in the chat tonight. It's funny. It's a quiet chat tonight, but I can't blame them because I think we're all taking in the info.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, there's so much to talk about that. that it's hard to just learn about everything. But I want to address what's on the table right now.
Yes, I was about to ask you, man. You brought us a really radical collection tonight.
Just a little simple collection. Nothing out of this world.
So we got 4 on the table, right?
Yeah, we have 4.
And how many do you own?
So in total, I own a total of 7 guns.
Okay.
Each of them have their own purpose. I usually carry about, I want to say 3 to 4 guns in my truck with me at all times.
Okay.
So if shit hits the fan, any situation where I need to pick up and I need someone to defend themselves, I have a weapon to give that person to defend themselves and to defend us. Because a lot of people during Katrina, they were getting robbed, killed. You remember that? Yeah. But then the state took it upon themselves to start disarming the citizens in the whole entire state after that.
Yeah, they did actually, right?
Yeah.
And that's when the big deals started happening on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So technically that was an infringement on their rights. They literally disarmed their citizens, and a lot of those people never got their firearms back.
Wow, that's insane, dude. That's insane.
So, but for what we have on the table right now, we have 2 pistols, or technically 3 pistols, and I'll explain why. But technically, this one here is a pistol. This is a pistol. That's a pistol, and this is considered a rifle by ATF standards.
That's crazy. Now, I noticed the large black and red one here.
Yes.
What's this called, by the way? The model?
This is an AR-15.
That's AR-15.
That's an AR. These are both AR-15s that I built at home by myself. Yeah.
The world famous AR-15 that became famous after the unfortunate Batman movie shooting.
Yeah. The movie
after that in Colorado, right?
Also Sandy Hook, I believe.
Sandy Hook, but I mean that one Batman moment.
Yeah.
That nobody ever even knew what an AR-15 was until that day.
I mean,
because that's when it started becoming the weapon they all used, right?
No, well,
not all of them. But you know
all
what I'm
saying. Like majority of mass shooters have gone to this weapon as a choice.
Yeah.
But like,
why is that? Do you think?
Why? It's just it's seen in this is where the argument about video games comes in. This is what's seen. This is our military weapon and stuff like that. And this is usually all you'll ever see in a gun store is an AR-15.
How much does it cost?
Your average AR-15 will cost you around $550.
$550.
I mean that's your basic.
That's not even that expensive, which is crazy.
Yeah, but it's. I wouldn't shoot it, honestly. I wouldn't. That's something you buy and then you upgrade as you go. A good decent price range for an AR-15 would be right around $1,000, $1,200. But when you're going to commit this violent act, you don't really care about those things.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're just thinking about
they're just trying to do something.
Yeah. So but at the same time, there's multiple guns. Like one of my pistols here that I have right here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, man. Just go down the line. Yeah, let's go one by one.
So right here you have the Beretta M9A3. This is the Beretta that the military had used for a very long time, over a course of 50 years, going into the Vietnam era.
50 years. Dude.
Yeah. So and then you have the 1911. Now, the 1911 that I have here is more of a modern pistol, but it's called the 1911 because that's when the first that design of pistol came out. It was a magazine-fed, shot of 45, and you could hand carry that, and it's very effective. Most of the officers in the Army had that. But that pistol right there is already 107 years old as far as design goes. It hasn't changed. Okay, it hasn't changed. So technically, that's 100 years old by design.
So they just make it look prettier.
They just make it look, it's improved by parts, and as we develop, right, it's improved, but nothing dramatic to the design has changed at all over a course of 100 years.
So it does the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So when people tell me, our forefathers never expected for guns to go this way, that's a lie. I have another rifle here that was used in World War I. I haven't confirmed that, but it starts right when World War I. It's a British sniper rifle. If you played Battlefield 1, this is the weapon that every infantryman was using to mow down some people at a distance. I have that here with us. So I'm going to show that.
Yeah, I got a sneak peek. It's actually still hidden because I want to get the full impact with you guys.
But just standard information on that. It's a bolt action. Okay.
Sweet.
But there's certain parts of the mechanic of this gun that I'm really surprised that most of our modern rifles don't really have right now. Like you don't see it very commonly on our modern bolt action rifles, and I can see why, because there's too much mechanical stuff going on. But aside from that, it's a legendary rifle.
Definitely.
But as far as back to the AR-15, do you know when the AR-15 was designed?
No.
Or actually built?
Not at all.
1957.
57?
When did the World War II end?
What was that, 40 something? Late 40s, right?
1952.
52? Oh, my bad, I'm bugging.
No, sorry, 1945. I apologize. I'm correct myself there.
1957. That's when like Lucy and Ricky were dominating the TV.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's kind of crazy.
So just about 11 years after World War II ended, we got the AR-15.
Wow, that's intense, man.
Know? And then people associate the AR, and this is wordplay with the media, right? So what is for you? What does AR stand for?
AR? Mm-hmm. I don't even... Something rifle. Assault rifle.
That's what you would think, right?
Right.
And that's because we've been programmed to think like that since the first shooting at the, when the AR was used, right?
Sure.
But it actually stands for the company's initials, Armalite.
Ah.
The Armalite rifle.
Armalite rifle. Okay, so it's a brand.
It is a brand. It is. That's the Armalite's the first company to design.
It's the Q-tip effect.
Exactly.
Call a cotton swab a Q-tip. It's not the same thing. Yeah.
So it's what could they do to make this thing sound scary? And they used wording, assault rifle. That doesn't even make sense if you look at it grammatically. If I take my phone and I hit you with it, does that make it an assault phone?
It's just with extra context, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So it's marketing basically, right?
Essentially, yeah. It's marketing to scare you.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because when they come out with a new Madden game, for example, a video game, right? They talk to you about the graphics. They say it's more realistic. They got out the newest updated teams with this and that. They try to make it sound fun. And I guess in the world of guns where these things are used to kill people, either to end or preserve life, they need to make it sound effective. So there's marketing that happens with that. You're completely right about it. I never you forget about these things because you get so caught up in the news that you forget that they're also products and they're companies that make them, and they
what one of the things is that their goal is to stir your emotions. Okay, we're emotional beings, and we react based on our emotions, and we decide things based on our emotions. What's the one thing you're afraid of?
Death, right? Most people, right?
And what's death? The unknown, right?
Ah, right.
So something that we don't know anything about, anything that sounds remotely scary about it, we're automatically going to distance ourselves from it, right?
Right.
So, it takes for us to educate ourselves and get good information, right? Because there's a lot of different opinions about certain things, but gain the right information first off. So that way you're not making a decision or making an assumption out of fear, but out of education.
Right.
So...
No, you're right, though. You're right. I mean, you do need to be educated about the kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a gun enthusiast by any means. Like, if we could all use swords, I'd be into that. You know what I mean?
Listen, if they ever ban my guns, I will definitely carry a sword. No problem. All right.
But here's the fun... Well, I think we opened up a hidden...
Less ammo, less money.
I think we opened up a hidden topic here because at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? Let's say they did ban guns, right? And let's say nobody had a gun at all. Let's say they never existed, for example. We don't even know what that is. And everybody would be trying to upgrade their swords. They would be, hiding them. They'd be,
the idea of a gun came from the bow and arrow. The Chinese are the ones who developed gunpowder.
Yeah, you're right about that.
They're the ones who created explosives. They were experimenting using bow and arrows, attaching the powder and igniting it, and then somebody decided, hey, what if we put this in a tube and just pack it in with a bunch of stuff? That's why you got your pirate blunderbuss. They just shove whatever they wanted. You've seen them in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, the little tiny.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe that. Just the little thing.
The little black powder pistol.
Yes.
Oh, and something we'll address if someone brings it up, but we'll talk about the gun show loophole.
The gun show loophole? What is that? Feel free to open us up on that.
So with the gun show loophole, everyone keeps talking about, right? They're like, oh yeah, you can go to a gun show. You don't even have to get a background check. You just go in there, buy a gun, and you walk out the same day.
Whoa. Is that true?
It is not true to a point. Okay? So black powder pistols, like a pirate pistol, a black powder pistol or a black powder rifle, you're buying an antique rifle that is classified by the ATF as it's a barbaric weapon compared to what we have now. So, and back then they didn't serialize things. There was no form of tracking or anything like that. It was just
made them,
stamp, made this maker's mark, and that's it. Okay. So
good alcohol, maker's mark.
Yeah, maker's mark, right? So So because of that, there is no way of tracking those firearms, and anyone can build them. You can build them in your own home. You just get a piece of metal tube, you know.
It's like a model kit.
Exactly. There are model kits. So, and they're super cheap. You can buy a black powder pistol for like $100 because it's such a barbaric weapon. And the amount of, like, you know, think about it. You have to think of it like a musket, right? You gotta pull up the rifle. You gotta pull out the packing rod. You gotta get your little flask of gunpowder, pack it in, take your wad, slap that in there, stuck it in there, then grab your little ball of metal, slap it in there, pack it in, okay? And then you gotta hope. Then you have to hope that little flint sets off the gunpowder and your gun goes off.
That's crazy. Can you imagine people in the Revolutionary War, like, you're packing this shit, like, I'm gonna kill the fuck out of you when I'm done packing this fucking thing?
Well, like in the Patriot, like, you know, that's why they did what they did. They stacked 4 men. 2 would shoot, and then the other 2, while they're reloading, the other 2 would shoot, and they would take turns. You know, they're to the fair game of fighting. We changed that as Americans.
Waves.
Yeah.
And now we got drones, right? Now it's like video games.
We got drones and stuff. Yeah, with video games and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, so, okay.
So back to the gun show loophole.
Yes.
Anyone who's at a gun show, so there's this thing called private sales.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a civilian selling a gun to a civilian. Okay.
The used market.
Yes, the used market, right? So, for example, let's say you told me, Ruben, I want to buy your pistol, man. I love the show and I want to buy the pistol. I'm going to say, okay. Do you have a concealed weapons license? You tell me, no, I don't. Okay. Do you have any felonies? No, I don't. Let's say, for example, that you did have a felony. And you tell me, no, I don't. Okay. Then I would employ, hey, okay, you want to buy my gun? We'll go to the gun store and I'll sell it to you there. Well, how does that work? I take my gun, you give me the cash, I hand my gun to the gun store, they take it in, I fill out a whole form, they buy it from me essentially, and then it is part of the gun store's property at that point. And then you fill out your form, the 4473, and if you pass the process, which is the background check, and remember we were talking about the medical marijuana?
Yes.
So if you have a felony, if you have a domestic violence, if you've been dishonorably discharged from the military, you know, any of those things, if you're a fugitive from justice, you answer yes to any of those questions, you're not buying my gun.
Wow. Do you want to pull up that form?
Yeah, we can pull it up. Let's show it up.
We should pull up the form really quick. We do have it. I thought it would be very interesting to kind of bring that up.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
And I can...
And okay, we can see it now. This is the little section.
So go ahead and start at the top for us here.
And for all the Spotify listeners, what we're looking at right now is a 4473 form.
Yeah, that is the form. It's by the U.S. Department of Justice. It's a firearms transaction.
Yeah.
And there's the warning, you know. So there's a transaction record. This is regulated by the ATF. They decide on all that information. So just to give you a little walk through.
Here's the mouse. You can just scroll through it as you wish.
No worries.
So feel free to check this form out with us, guys. You guys should be able to read it decently. If not, we're going to talk about it anyway.
This is how the stores conduct their background. Like this, the pretty much before the background check is done, you got to fill out all this information. Okay. So if I was selling the gun, this is where I would put my serial number. Okay, so you see transfers, sellers, transaction serial number. Okay, and then so here you go. Here we go. Hang on. It's a little hard to see here.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's a little finicky what we're working.
Right. So you see how it says social security number is optional, right?
Yeah.
So legally they don't have to have your social security number, but let's say this: would you say that Fernando Rodriguez is a very common name?
Yes.
Okay, so we put Rodriguez, we put Fernando, and for some mysterious reason he doesn't have a middle name.
And he doesn't put the social.
He doesn't put the social. So now they're gonna go based off of Fernando Rodriguez. He lives in so and so county city, has the height weight of, let's say he's 6'1", 205 pounds. He's male, right? Because sex, it's not asking for gender. And then we have our birthday, right?
Right.
Okay, so. Now right over here, let me see, there we go. Okay, so it asks if he's Hispanic or Latino. He says he's Hispanic. All right, and then he chooses, is he American Native, Black African American, Native Hawaiian. So we're gonna say he's American. Let's see if there's a race, we'll say, let's think it's over here on the other side.
Race, American,
yeah, white. We have the white right there. Okay.
Okay.
So he claims to be white.
They put white at the end. That's different, right?
Yeah.
For all you Facebook fans.
It looks like they're being suppressed by suppressing the white guy all the way at the end.
Right, put them in the back of the line.
So,
Fuck them. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
So
I'm just saying.
So we get in here. All right, are the actual transferee? So what this is referring to is, so if, let's say you're a felon and you can't buy a gun, right?
Right.
I go into the store, you're with me, I don't know anything about guns, and the guy behind the counter notices that you're looking and picking out the guns. I'm not saying anything.
Right.
So if I lie on this part right here, I'm part of a straw purchase. Okay, so what this means is I'm helping someone who cannot own a firearm purchase a firearm. And it's the person behind the counter's job to recognize the signs for this.
So you're in deep shit at that point. And what part is that? Number
It's the
11A?
first question. That's why I ask, are you the person buying this gun? It is on me to, if I make the mistake and say, no, I'm buying the gun, but it's for him. That store owner will, or that person behind the counter will automatically say, sorry, I can't sell you a gun. I believe this is a straw purchase. I'm not going to sell you a gun today.
Okay.
So right there, you just got disqualified.
Okay.
So let's say I am the one buying the gun. It's for me. All right. Are you indictment of information of any court of a felony? Meaning, you're supposed to appear in court for a felony. If I say yes, sorry, can't sell you a gun. Okay. Have you ever been convicted of any court of a felony or any other crime that a judge would imprison you for, even if you've received a shorter sentence?
Including probation.
If I say yes, you cannot buy a gun.
Okay, then.
Are you a fugitive from justice, meaning I'm running, like Bonnie and Clyde? Yes, I'm running from the justice.
That's crazy.
I cannot buy a gun.
It's like, I'm the guy that was on America's Most Wanted yesterday.
I just want to remind you something. This is before the background check is conducted.
This is before the background
This is all before the background check is conducted. Are you an unlawful user of or an addict to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug? This is what we're talking about with the whole medical marijuana card. You hold a medical marijuana card and you answer yes to this question or no. Let's say you say no, I'm not. Then you have just lied on a federal form and you're going to go to jail for 5 years.
5 years.
That's what any question that you lie on this form, any part of this starting is 5 years in federal prison.
Miami rapper Kodak Black is dealing with that right now. He actually unknowingly they asked if he was indicted and he thought it was just in the state of Florida.
No, it's any part of the country.
Yeah, so then he might be facing up to 10 years at this point.
Yeah, exactly, and that's because he lied on this form by saying no.
Yeah.
So then here you go. Look, have you ever been discharged from the armed forces under dishonorable conditions? Getting this is pretty much like a felony.
Really?
Yeah.
How hard do you have to what do you have to do to get kicked out of the army? Like, you have to fight somebody or whatever?
No. It just it varies. It all depends on what the UCMJ action is.
Okay.
They determine what is dishonorable. It could be for a DUI. It could simply be a DUI,
Fair enough.
negligent acting, like you did something negligently, which you knew otherwise to do. Okay. So are you subject to a court order restraining you from harassing? So pretty much
no stalkers.
Yeah, pretty much no stalkers or a domestic violence a dispute. That would disqualify you if you have any of those charges. Have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence? So
wow,
yeah.
So even a little bit, even misdemeanors.
Yeah. So country of citizenship, what that's talking about is, so let's say an immigrant who's here, who's decided to become a permanent resident but still want to be a citizen of their country, they are allowed to purchase a firearm. Okay, as long as they have their visa and their green card and everything, they have their permanent residency card. They're allowed to purchase a firearm just like an American citizen. So they have the right. So you
don't even have to be a citizen necessarily?
No, you have to be a permanent resident.
Right, but not a U.S. citizen. You don't have to be, right? A citizen of a country,
obviously. Of a country, right? By association, but you permanently live here in the States, yeah.
So that's cool. So
that's pretty cool. So okay, so then it asks you if you're an alien illegally or unlawfully in the United States. Okay, have you ever renounced your citizenship? If you ask me on a personal level, if you step on my American flag, you're renouncing your citizenship. All right, because too many people have died for that thing.
Yeah,
it's not a thing. It's not something for you to step on or burn, because you are stepping on the sacrifices of a lot of souls,
right,
who've died. And if you ever look up the history about why we say the national anthem, not the national anthem, why we sing the Star Spangled Banner, okay, that story at the end when they're talking about after the bombings and stuff, what was holding that flag up? It was the bodies of the villagers, of the people who lived there, because it was called the fort, but it wasn't a military fort. Okay, and at the end of that night, after all the bombs, it was all corpses holding that flag up.
That our flag was still there.
Flag was still there. It was all corpses from everyone running out and picking up that flag and holding it up all night.
And so when they died for that thing, yeah, literally.
You know what I mean? So when you step on the flag, I understand you're doing it for political and all that, but you're really just too many people have died for that flag for you to take that and just not take any respect to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's funny. Like, I understand that people. What am I trying to say? People try to make like political statements, and people try to make statements in general. Like, you know, like you see like the artists that like paint with their period blood, you know, because they're like, we're gonna make a statement here.
And as long as it's called art, it's okay.
Right. So, you know, like I understand that, but it's like, you know, maybe you could paint somebody stepping on a flag. Yeah, I think that would be a little. I don't want to say classy, but you know what I mean. It's just kind of, I don't know. How do you expect people not to be upset with you?
Exactly.
Like,
you know,
just expect it, because that's what's gonna happen. Like,
I agree.
Nobody's gonna leave you alone just because you're trying to do art. Like, no, you're making a statement, and people are either going to agree or disagree with that.
Exactly. And then, you know, so, you know, but aside from that, we're getting off. So, are you an alien who has been admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa? So, if yes, fill out everything else. So, aside from all that, we're going to go into the next part of the page.
Yes.
So, right here is where we're deciding whether this is a handgun. This is where all the information for the firearms go.
Okay.
So, number of notification and everything. So, let me see. So right here is where the background check is conducted. Okay. And this is where you get proceed, denied, canceled, delayed.
Right.
So, NICS is the organization that handles the background checks. Okay. We call them. Okay. And then, however long, some people it takes, not even that phone call, they get approved.
Okay.
So
if you got a clean record, you should be fine.
That means they have a squeaky clean record. Now, what that background is. It is through an FBI database, okay, which is nationwide. So it's looking for anything, and that's what Kodak Black is going through.
Right.
So that background check, squeaky clean, like goes through every state, every county, throughout the whole country, looking for felonies, any charges. And so let's go back to my example. Fernando Rodriguez did not put his social security number, right?
Right.
So how many Fernando Rodriguez do you think are felons?
Hundreds.
Exactly.
That's just based on numbers.
Let's just use that as an example. So let's say he did put his social security number, but there's a Fernando Rodriguez in California who's a career felon, and his social security number was off by like 2. All right. What happens is he'll get a delayed. Yeah. Oh, you took the mess back. Okay.
Oh, my bad.
No worries.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll bring it back. I don't want people to.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
So he'll get a delayed, right? And now he has to prove to the FBI that he is Fernando Rodriguez who lives in Florida. And until he gets that letter, he has to go to the FBI, conduct a questionnaire and everything. And once he gets the letter from the FBI saying, okay, this is Fernando Rodriguez who lives in the state of Florida, go ahead and give him his firearm.
Okay.
That is the process of going to go buy a gun. Like, honestly, we just did it. Look how long it took me to get you through it.
Right. No. I mean, and you know what? It's having never seen the form before, it's interesting to me that, I mean, it's pretty detailed. It's pretty detailed.
It is.
You know, there's more on it. I expected there to be less, because for the amount of, like, what is people's major complaint about this whole process then? Like, are people saying that it's not thorough enough?
I mean, if you ask me, it's so thorough that the problem is, if the person lies on the form, we don't know until a evil act is committed. Like, let's say you go buy a gun, and then you pass everything, you go through all the proper channels and everything, and you use it to defend yourself. But when you used it, it's viewed as a crime because you shot him in the back, manslaughter.
Right.
You know, then they're gonna check. Oh, what did we miss? What did the gun store miss? Because now the guy behind the counter is almost viewed as an accessory to the crime, because if he knew you had a felony and he told you how to answer this questionnaire, now he's going to jail with you.
Right.
You know, so going back to the private sale. Now, this is what we're talking about here is if you were to go to a gun show and buy from a gun store that's there, a legal FFL, the Florida, the firearm license, is what you need to be a gun dealer. But let's talk about private citizen. If you told me no, right? Let's say you had a felon, you told me no, and I didn't do all that. Well, I don't know that you're lying to me.
Yeah.
But if you go use that gun in a crime, now I'm an accessory to your crime.
Yeah, you're part of the equation.
I'm part of the equation, so
crazy.
I go to jail and I lose my rights too.
So it's
and all I did was sell you a gun and you lied to me.
All you did was have a job, right?
Exactly. No, I'm just talking about as a private person, like right now.
Oh, I get you.
I'm talking about as a private person. So, like, this is the things that people don't understand. That's why when they're like, "Oh,
big responsibility.
Private sales need to have background checks." Like, now you're taking away. Well, now then that means anyone who buys a car, anyone who buys anything privately should have a background check, because what is the difference between a firearm and a car?
And I mean, how are you supposed to know if people are lying or not? What are you supposed to do? Like, I mean that's kind of difficult.
That same process I just walked you through. Take them to the gun store. If they're willing to go to the gun store and go through that process,
they'll be fine, right?
There should be no reason why he shouldn't buy. Exactly, there should be nothing to hide.
That makes sense. I mean, I guess you know what I mean. So then who are these? I mean, because I see a lot of people complaining that and like I said, I'm on neither side of it, so I'm just sitting here, trying to figure it all out, just like everybody, just like a lot of people.
Perspective, right?
Right. So it's kind of like I think about people complaining that, well, then we should just get rid of the guns, and then I'm like, well, how is that going to help anybody?
It doesn't.
How is that going to help anybody?
Because it doesn't stop. It's like saying, let's get rid of all drugs. Well, we still have a drug problem. It's like
gets worse almost.
Well, it's what? Actually, if you want to talk about numbers, drunk drivers kill more people every year than guns do.
Yeah, for sure.
Guns periodically have killed 30,000 people a year. Almost 75% of that is suicides.
Wow.
Okay, and then the rest are just used in crimes. Okay, but if you actually look, the CDC did a study. They didn't release it, but it showed that guns are used defensively in majority of 300,000 to 1 million times throughout the year.
Damn.
Okay,
that's wild.
They didn't release that because it wasn't conducive to the agenda.
The argument, yeah. Well, I mean,
technically, refrigerators kill more people every year than guns do. You think I'm joking? How about this? Back in the 50s, you know how those old refrigerators, they have that latch and stuff like that? So it's actually a felony to have a refrigerator now with that.
How? Why? Because
what was happening was people would open them and kids would climb in and the latch would close and lock the kid in and kill him. Or people would go, they would walk, they used to have big fridge, so they would walk in there, latch would close, they couldn't open it because it locks in.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it became a felony. Now it's a felony. It's literally a law that you cannot have a latch on a refrigerator.
Which is, at my day job, we have these big fridges that we have to walk into, and they have the latch where you could just open it inside. And I remember when new people come to the job, they're always like, "Oh my God, I'm so scared to go in there," and I'm like, "No, don't worry, like you can't lock yourself in here." And they always get surprised by it. And then I always, I thought to myself, like, yeah, why were people doing that back in the day? What made that stop? So I guess you answered that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So let's zoom out for a second. Thank you everybody for hanging out in the chat tonight. We got Catherine, we got Valerie, we got a bunch of rad people hanging out tonight. Definitely appreciate the questions. Definitely appreciate you coming by.
No, definitely.
Giving us some awesome info. So let's talk about video games for a quick second, because we got in heavy for a second. So let's
lighten up the mood a little.
Yes.
Okay, I'll start it off. So this gun right here, I designed off of a gun from a video game called Rainbow Six Siege.
Epic.
It's one of the operator's guns. I was super excited to build it. The only difference is the caliber that the gun uses. It's a lot bigger bullet. I'll show you guys in a minute with the difference in size, but that's going more into detail about how the gun works.
How'd you get it built? What company does that?
So actually it's just like buying a car, man. So what's actually registered is the lower part. So I'll take this apart real quick because so just for everybody to know, this has been already disarmed. I've taken this bolt right here. This is the bolt that's holding the gun up. So without this piece, even if a magazine was in there, this is what grabs the bullet and puts it in the barrel. I'm just using it to hold this pistol here, but this is completely safe. There's no way for this gun to go off. There's no ammo, there's no magazine or anything like that. So I just want to address that, and I'm going to try to carefully handle this.
So all of us, including everybody at home, you are safe.
There's 3 rules to handling firearms. Always treat it as if it's loaded, point in the direction that you plan on shooting.
Yes.
All right, and at the same time, keep your finger off the trigger. You follow those 3 cardinal rules, and nobody loses their life. Okay.
Good move.
Break 2, somebody dies.
Yeah. Very short, sad side story. Back in middle school, I had two friends that were playing around with the gun, and one of them did shoot it off. The other one did get hit in the shoulder into his heart, and he did not make it.
Oh,
and it was a sad time. That was a very sad time. And unfortunately, one of the guys did go to jail for manslaughter for a while.
Camera here.
So
right, cool.
things do happen, guys. So do be careful with them. And
just take
all of them, even the old school, Pirates of the Caribbean ones. Got to be careful with those too.
Yeah, actually, those
are probably worse, right?
Not worse.
You think those hurt you more than the other person?
Yeah, I mean, you got a concussion. I mean, that's what's happening here. So as you guys can see, all right, I've taken the gun apart.
Come to the mic a little bit.
Oh, my bad. So as you can see, I've already taken the gun apart. Okay, so without the upper part, that's where the barrel is. So this part right here, just this section. Without the pistol grip, without the stock, okay, this is what's actually registered. This is what you purchase. Everything
the damage
else, yeah. Well, no, not the damage doer. This is just the chassis of the car. Let's call it that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the chassis, and this is your engine. Okay.
Oh.
All right. This is and this is your piston. This is your engine. This is what drives everything. And think of the barrel as your tire. Okay. That's what gets the wear and tear when the bullet travels through it. Now, with that being said, okay, I'll place that right there. All right, so when you purchase, you can buy these without parts, completely stripped and empty. So this is the trigger. This is actually, so I'm going to put it on fire. So this is selecting, okay? Now, when I pull this trigger, this is the actual hammer. This is what hits the firing pin and sets the gun off. So right now, press, bang, okay? So you could buy this whole part without any of these parts here, okay? And then you put the parts in. You just like building a car. You start assembling it. You start attaching, putting pins, doing all that good stuff, right? Now, everything else that makes this work, you can buy online.
Okay.
You don't need, it's not registered. There's no serialization, nothing like that. And it's made like that because this is what really makes everything work. This is the gas pedal, everything. Without this, there is no gun.
Okay.
So with that being said, let's do this real quick. Take this. So now, once we assemble these two parts together, okay,
they just snap together like fucking.
That's it. It's just those two pins.
Like connects.
So just so you'll see, it's just those two pins that are holding this whole thing together. That's it.
Damn.
All right. So now I'm gonna take this here.
Thank everybody for hanging out in the chat tonight. Some wild shit, right? What's going on, Amy? Hanging out in the chat. She says, what's going on, Amy?
What's going on, Amy?
How are you?
All right.
Thanks for hanging out tonight. So right now we got Ruben taking the gun apart. He just turned it into the letter T.
So
this is some wild shit, man. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in my life. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this kind of stuff, but this is pretty epic.
Okay, so now we're going to treat this like if it's loaded. Okay, we're going to treat this as if it's loaded, so I'm going to keep it pointed to the roof.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm going to turn this around so everyone can see. So this is racking. So that's the charging handle. That's how you rack and load the bullet, okay? Now, it's open, it's safe, okay? Now, once you, let's say I had a magazine with ammo in there, that would have just loaded a bullet, okay? Now, what people confuse is this is what semi-automatic is. So it's completely clear, okay? No ammo. Now, when I pull back on this would eject the bullet or the casing, okay? So it's completely empty. We're safe, okay? This is how semi-automatic works. You pull the trigger, bang. Now, what would happen was if a bullet had been in here, the concussion that happens in the gun would push that the bolt here, which is that's what it's called, would push it back. The spring in here would compress that and then load the next bullet. And that's how a semi-automatic works.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if this was an automatic, okay, I would hold down this trigger. That's the first round. And then that bolt would just keep going until I run out of ammo. That's how an automatic works.
So you just hold it.
You just hold it down because what's happening inside is there's a sear that's holding the trigger back from going forward. See, now what happens is the trigger has already went forward, so it relies on the bolt to cock it. Okay. Whoa. So now I would have to pull the trigger again, bang, bang, and that's how it works. Okay. So with that being said, when people are like, oh, but that's too fast, that's too much. It's actually really not. It really depends on the user. Depending how fast I can pull my finger is how fast the gun will shoot. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to keep this open, make sure it's, there we go. All right. So set this down here. There.
How fascinating, folks.
We got that. All right.
Death machines explained.
All right.
But keep in mind, a vehicle is also a death machine.
So now going back to the pistol here, all pistols are semi-automatics, majority. So if it's not a revolver, now with revolvers, this is a pistol that has a revolver action in it. So it's called single action and double action. Okay. What's happening is some revolvers. So it's, right now it's clear. There's no bullets. Okay. It is on safe. It does have a safety selector. Okay. So the way this gun works is when the safety's off, it disengages the hammer. Okay. And the trigger doesn't work. Okay. Now, when I switch it to fire, the hammer will cock back. This is what actually hits the firing pin and sets the bullet off and loads the next round. Okay. Now, what a double action is when you pull the trigger, you see the hammer moving. Okay. Yeah. So this on a old or a single action revolver, that's it. That's why the cowboys have to do this.
Oh.
And do that. Okay, that's why the cowboys slap that hammer in the back, because it's a single action pistol.
Damn.
A double action allows for this hammer to be pulled by itself. So bang. So it doesn't matter how many times I pull the trigger, that's a double action.
So it hammers it itself.
So it does it. So it resets the trigger by itself. Okay. So that makes it, and then what makes it semi-automatic is the fact that it's one trigger pull and it loads itself. See? So if it goes bang, 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 I have to create the action, but if there was a bullet in there and it would make the concussion, it would do that by itself.
So you got to do the little thing on top.
Yeah, so I have to make it function in order to show how that action works. So I'm going to put it on safe again. I'm going to lock the slide back. So, and then the way you take this apart, you clear the trigger, hammer back, and then, let me see here. There we go. And that's
some wild shit, man.
So now I've just disassembled the firearm.
Oh, it's like a Twix.
So, yeah. So this is the spring. This is what helps control the recoil and reduce most of it. And then you could take the barrel out.
So have you upgraded any of these parts or anything like that, or is this all stock the way you bought it, or
I've
how does that go?
Just as far as my ARs, I've built them all, so I've bought all the nice parts and put them in there.
That's cool.
But essentially,
what's going on, Jasoma, hanging out in the chat tonight? Thank you everybody for hanging out.
Glad to see you here.
Absolutely. And we are going to answer some questions from the chat. I know I had a couple of questions on Instagram. If you guys have any questions right now, feel free to ask them into the chat. This show, you guys are just as much of the part of the show as Ruben himself. You know, we're all hanging out. We're all learning together, and maybe we're all teaching together at the same time too. So it's a good time. It's a good time. Right now we're checking out. I forgot the names of all the stuff. They got like letters and numbers, so it's very difficult to remember. It's not like McDonald's where they just call it the Big Mac. It's like at McDonald's they're like, it's the MD.
What's your order? What's your price?
The MDBC. Right. Yeah, I don't know what the.
If you want, we could show the rifle.
Oh yeah, man!
No
feel free to bring it up.
Questions.
So everybody, feel free to take a trip back into time with us.
Right, give me 1 second.
Ruben is going to go ahead and grab this radical piece of machinery, piece of history, and he is going to tell you guys what this is. All right. So feast your eyes, though. This is pretty badass. So. Feel free to tell the people what we are working with right here. What are we looking at?
Actually, what I'd like to do, if you could pull it up on Google.
Oh, yeah.
Because this rifle doesn't look like how you used to. It's actually been cut down to look like a sporting rifle. Let's just go on Google real quick.
What am I looking at?
You're going to Google the SMLE MKIII, or 3 in Roman numerals. All right, and then go ahead and go to images there.
Sorry, we're looking up a thing. Where's that images? Yes.
There you go. Go ahead, click that. Let me see. Click the one to the right of that.
This one?
There you go, that one, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so
let's check out a picture really quick, and let me bring it up for you guys. right here. Ooh, look at that first name. To all my
Yeah,
Spotify, to all the people on Spotify listening right now, what are we looking at?
All right, so we're looking at the MK SMLE-3. All right, this is the British rifle that was used in World War One, and that's what it originally looked like. But the person that I acquired from this found this rifle in a garbage bag in a creek.
We're back on camera.
So,
Garbage bag in a creek.
yeah, way back in the 70s.
In the 70s,
So,
dudes.
What they did
Like
was
Stranger Things.
as you can see in the
Or
original picture, the front piece and the wood and the barrel's all covered up, and that was cut off, and they shaved it here to make it look like a hunting rifle. So this is a bolt action. Okay, what that means is you pull back this bolt, you load the next bullet, and you have to manually handle it.
Now, what year are we talking about this was made?
This is 1917.
1917.
All right. Let me see on the video real quick, see if we can get a good. All right, cool. So you can see. I'm gonna get a little closer for the viewers. Hang
Go
on a
for it,
second.
go for it. Camera's right over there, feel free. So right now, Ruben is gonna... This is exciting. We're working the wires around.
Making this work.
That.
There we go. All right, cool.
Shut up. Let's talk episode 91, folks. Enjoy.
So I don't know if you can hear me, but go ahead. And
Okay.
that's how bolt action works.
He said this is how a bolt action works.
All right. And then.
This would have a 10-round magazine.
All right. Now, this is what.
This is the hammer.
You pull the trigger,
Oof.
and it would go. Okay.
And that would shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now here's pretty cool. What I was saying was you don't see in most bolt actions.
Notice what we do not see these days is...
So you pull back on.
So he's pulling back the hammer dealy.
And now it's on safe.
Oh, now it's on safe.
Now, just like on that pistol that I was showing you earlier with the safety and the trigger disengaged.
Right.
Trigger's disengaged.
Ah, so the trigger's like locked right now. What he did on this.
And theoretically, there would be a bullet in the chamber if we had loaded it up. So now it's on safe. Now, can you imagine walking through? It's World War One, and you're in the middle, and firefight starts.
So basically, he's saying if you're walking through World War One and a firefight starts all of a sudden, you are...
Yeah, and you have to pull this back just to be able to...
You got to pull the safety back just to be able to shoot it, which...
The hammer. Pretty much it's decocking the hammer is what it's doing.
Decocking the hammer. So basically, by the time you'd be dead.
So you pretty much want to walk around just like this.
So you want to walk around with the safety off.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Just,
okay.
Your finger is your best friend.
Yes.
Keep your finger off the trigger, and that's it.
Keep your finger off the trigger, and that's it. I'm sorry if I'm echoing everything he's saying, but there's no way for him to hold the mic and show it at the same time. So that had to happen there. But that was actually really fascinating, man. And what we're looking at is honestly, it's pretty amazing to me. This is a piece of history, man. Like I remember playing Medal of Honor back in the day, and I know this gun was made before this is World War One you're talking about. Medal of Honor was World War II. But just thinking about just thinking about the generations of people that had to use that for either good or evil. It's just, I can't imagine I just can't imagine the stories. I can't imagine how that's been passed down over time. There's a certain amount of pride that goes along with, there's a certain amount of pride that goes with having that power. And I know that's one thing about guns that makes it such a hot topic is the fact that they are either power givers or power takers. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just like a sword and a bow and arrow. Who do you think would win, the bow and arrow or the sword? It just depends on the user.
Exactly.
But some would argue like, oh, well, bow and arrow shooter can't shoot arrows faster than a gun. I'm like, that's all a matter of training.
Right.
And actually a bow and arrow would be more dangerous because you can't hear it.
Ah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, true. You can't hear it. Wow. Interesting. I mean? But you know what? Think about the people back we were talking earlier that, sure. We were talking earlier about, swords, and people would be upgrading their swords if they could, just like bows and arrows. At some point, they started putting poison on the tips, and they started doing all sorts of other stuff.
Actually, it's funny that you say that because overseas, what they're doing now is they're lacing their bullets with blood that has AIDS in it and HIV. Yeah.
No.
That's one of their tactics that they do, yeah. Yeah,
overseas,
over in Afghanistan, Iraq, that's what they were doing. They were pouring blood and handling the ammo with that and shoot it at our soldiers.
Infected blood,
yeah.
dudes.
Whoa, biological warfare. Yeah.
Guys, that's insane. Did you guys know that? I did not know that. I did not even hear about that. That's kind of wild, man.
It is.
I mean, and
wild.
you know, it's funny. I'm sure there's people in the chat that are going to be like, "Well, what about all the crazy stuff they do to everybody?" I mean, war is ugly, no matter what side you're looking at it from. I don't agree with any of it.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know. I mean, I understand everything has a place. Hello, my love. The lovely Claudia has just blessed us with her presence. How are you, my love? She has had a long day. You look like you deserve a beer. Feel free. Well, yeah, no, not while we're here, but yes, you know.
No, we can't drink because we have firearms.
No drinking on the show tonight because these bad boys are hanging out with us. So
yeah, well, not the bad boys, but we're the bad boys. Huh?
Yes.
I've been dying to have conversations with you.
Of course, hey, come on over.
The lovely Claudia says she's been dying to have conversations with Ruben.
You know, definitely, I think you bring some real context to the show too.
You would bring some great. You know, it's funny. We should swap. No, I'm kidding. But anyway,
would that be considered a gender swap?
The non-political gender swap. I like it. Thank you everybody for hanging out in the chat tonight. I hope everybody's having a great night so far. How the hell are you folks, man? How do you? Is this your first podcast?
Yeah, actually, it is. To be honest,
how do you like
it? First podcast. I'm loving it. I'm actually enjoying this a lot.
It's fun, right? It's a good time.
I've gone to so I participate in Florida Open Carry, so I also teach people. So I do this on a regular basis as I go to my events. So a lot of people don't know this, but in the state of Florida, before the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, Florida was an open carry state where you could openly carry your firearm. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't until after, no, it was actually in the 80s, before 86, you could do that. But it wasn't until that bank robbery that you've seen in movies where a bunch of guys walk in with a bunch of armor and automatics and the cops can't fight them off. You know, like in, what's a good example? What's that movie that Will Smith did? I forgot, man. Where he's the he's immortal and he doesn't know why, I can't remember who he is. And every time he gets close, Hancock, yes. Okay, so that situation where the guys are up armored, that actually happened out in the 80s.
Whoa. Here?
Yeah. I don't know if it was here in Florida. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I know that happened. And the cops, all they had were revolvers. They didn't have. These guys were using automatic,
sophisticated weaponry.
Well, no, actually, just modern rifles that were automatic.
So how did the cops not have this stuff? They just wasn't
their average. It wasn't their average day to day. You know, like the average person didn't have access to this. These were actual military rifles that they were using.
So what are cops carrying in their cars these days? Do they have some extra heavy stuff?
The AR-15s, man.
So like in the. No, I'm just saying. So they have all that extra stuff with it. So they carry all that with them now.
Yeah, now they have. Well, after that incident, that's when everything changed. That's actually the NRA promoted to register and create a system where civilians could still have access to automatic weapons, depending if the state allowed it. But you couldn't just go to a store or go buy it. It got super, super regulated after that because there's so many cops that died that day. So now you have to have a level 3 license, okay, to purchase of automatic or suppressor.
Level 3?
Yeah, so it's a deal. That's the deal. There has to be a level 3 firearm license. So
what are level 1 and 2?
Level 1 is your FFL, your standard gun dealer. I forget what level 2 is. I think that's just
like, what's the difference between them all, basically? Like you're allowed to sell bigger weapons?
Yeah, where you're allowed to.
Oh,
to my knowledge, I'm not very familiar with that. I'd have to get back to you on that. As far as like your standard dealer license is to allow to buy, sell, and trade and distribute. Okay, I don't know what level 2 is. I just know that with level 3, that's where you can manufacture. You know, I think level 2 is the manufacturing license.
Okay.
But Shannon's on here watching. He can correct me in the comments. He's my
awesome.
He actually knows a lot more than I do. He has a lot more experience than I do. I really learned a lot from him. Used to work with him in Washington State as a security guard.
Oh, cool. My girlfriend loves Seattle.
Nice.
He got robbed in Seattle, unfortunately.
Almost robbed. Almost
robbed.
I remember. Almost.
Oh yeah. That was the one that ran off.
A lot of cops don't like this, but so I'll show it to you first, so you can
concealed weapon permit.
So,
and it looks like a badge, or it is a badge.
It is a badge, right? But it's not an official badge. But the reason why I have this is, God forbid, in a situation where, like, let's say that club situation where the security guard had actually stopped the shooter and everything like that. Let's say I had my gun in that club. club.
Talking about Orlando?
Yeah, in Orlando.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So let's say I would think in my situation, if I had my gun drawn and I had just shot someone, let's say I injured them, which I probably wouldn't. I probably would kill them because, and I'll get into why. You want when you're concealed carrying or defending your home, why you want to. I don't want to incite killing somebody. I don't condone it, but in a situation where it's your life, your family's life. They just enacted, they're coming at you to take your life. It's only fair that you take the same power. You know what I mean? They've taken that power from you. So, sure. Here's a situation I'll give you. So an old lady in New York, the guy was breaking into her house. And he climbed into the window, stepped on her little coffee table, broke his ankle, fell in. She called the cops. Okay. Later on, when he got out of jail after the burglary charge and everything, he sued her for his injuries that he sustained breaking into her house.
Oh no!
This old lady lost her house.
No way!
Yeah, she lost the court favored it for him and his injuries and stuff. If he had not, because she failed to have a sign that said no trespassing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Don't let the criminals know the law, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane how the legal process works. I mean, our legal system has issues, and we need to address that. But the most thing, we cannot give up our rights. No, a lot of people are like, "Oh, we need to focus on mental illness." Okay, what you guys don't understand is the implications of that. Okay, I'm all for it. I'm all for trying to, but there's no real way to pinpoint it without giving up our rights. Okay, it doesn't have to, actually, that doesn't have anything to do with our Second Amendment. Okay, it actually goes to your HIPAA rights. So think about this. You try to go to a gun store and you want to buy a gun, but you have to go get certified by a psychologist. So now you've been red flagged with a mental illness. Okay, and because of that, you can't buy a gun. That same thing is going to come up when you try to get employed by somebody.
So you become blacklisted in society?
Essentially, you do. Essentially, why can't you buy a gun? What's wrong with you?
Or the lovely Claudia is like exploding right now.
There's two type of records that a person holds.
Okay.
Sorry, love, the people can't hear this.
Yeah, they can't. If you want to jump
it's just important stuff you're saying. What are you saying? There's two types of records people hold?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There is the public record.
Public records.
Cops see and everything.
The ones that the cops see.
And then
from that,
you can choose what it can show on your history.
You can choose what shows in your history.
Disclosure of something extreme, because
what?
Disclosure of something extremely important about my personal.
Okay.
I have a chemical imbalance.
Okay.
Oh, sorry guys. I don't know if I'm supposed to be translating all this, but all right. Anyway.
But when I actually go on.
Thank you everybody for hanging out on episode 91 of Shut Up, Let's Talk so far. I hope you guys are all having a great night.
That doesn't come out on the job.
Right.
Now, if a cop stops me, it has to show just in case I have a seizure.
Right.
So you decide what shows in your job. So I still believe you should be evaluated to get a gun, and it should show in your record if you have a mental illness for different reasons, not just for guns.
Of course.
I don't know if you guys heard all that,
but
yeah.
See, what happens is now you become socially scrutinized for it, because now it says, well, if you can't even buy a gun, like, what is so wrong with you that you could buy a gun and potentially kill someone? That's what they're leaving up to assumption. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that there isn't a way to combat that, but what I'm trying to avoid is giving up my Fourth Amendment right of privacy, okay, to combat a Second Amendment right. Like you're gonna give up your Fourth so that you can protect your Second. You understand?
You have to give up any.
You do. If you're talking about red flag law, not red flag, but if you're talking about mental illness, that's a medical history. Just like you don't have to disclose if your dog's what is it called?
Sorry, love, would you like a mic?
Can you connect one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it reaches.
I could actually.
So just like you don't have to disclose if your dog is what is it called? The dogs.
Sorry, guys.
Well, the dogs.
Oh, the helping dogs. I can never remember their name.
What is it called? But anyway, anyone could take their dog anywhere, and they could say, "Oh yeah, it's my my emotional support dog, a service dog." There you go. Thank you. So anyone could walk anywhere and say, "Oh, that's my service dog." It is illegal for them to ask you for documentation to prove it.
My bad, brother. Can you grab me that mic next to you?
Yeah. It's actually illegal and against your Fourth Amendment right to ask that question. Oh, can you show me proof? Are you asking me to show you my medical records?
Yes,
No, here you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
but
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize your thing was there.
No biggie. It's 100 years old, man. You're not gonna break it now.
That thing is seeing it all.
you are right.
Hold it closer to your mouth. Sorry.
Better.
Yeah, right.
Okay, you're right. Okay. Super shy.
No, it's okay. Listen, collect your idea. Think about it.
No, you're right.
I'll wait.
No, you're right about the dog situation. They cannot come up to you and ask you
my girlfriend.
unless they have a court paper. But no matter where there is health history or health information about a person, doesn't matter if a cop has it or who has it.
Right.
There is the HIPAA,
Yeah.
and it should stay. It should still appear on the cop's car.
Oh no, of course it's going to, right?
But and it still appear for jobs. And what happens if a job does not hire you because of a mental illness? Then that's discrimination.
No,
So-
because discrimination is only defined by age, race, sex, and I mean that's it.
discrimination won't apply if it comes to
No, because
mental health.
No, because that is so. Discrimination is based off of age, race, and what is it called? And gender,
Yeah, gender.
and stuff. But discrimination doesn't
Orientation.
classify that.
Okay, but then
Now
it's
we
still,
could redefine that as being discrimination because now, right? Oh, you're discriminating against me because I have Down syndrome, right? But that's not a mental illness. That's a mental disorder.
So they
That's
start.
true.
So there's
Yeah, it's
technicalities.
different. Yes.
There's technicalities. See, and that's what happens when we start arguing the legal jargon. It is all in the perception of whatever the courts decide. For example, I'm going to give you a prime example right in front of your face. You're going to see this is classified as a rifle. Okay, these are both AR-15s, but by classification, this is a rifle and this is a pistol. Do you want to know why?
because the way that it shoots.
No, ma'am. It is because of the one accessory that's on it, the buttstock. That has a buttstock, meaning that is meant to be shouldered. It's actual first. So the way when you design something, and its intent is to be shouldered, right? So one of the things that we came up with was a arm brace. So this is meant to be braced around my arm because how a pistol is handled is one-handed and shot from one hand.
Which one is the one that shooters use?
Both.
Both.
It's just but legal classification, this is a pistol and that is a rifle.
We're saying this because this little one is also a pistol.
So there's three, technically, legally speaking right now, on the table are 3 pistols and 1 rifle. Okay, because the initial usage of this accessory is to brace it to my arm. Now, ATF has classified that if I shoulder this, it doesn't classify as a rifle because its intent is to be braced against my arm. Do you understand?
Yes.
So now when you start talking about legal jargon, that's why I'm saying, like, when it comes to mental illness, I'm all for trying to find a solution, but then who's the one who gets to decide? Okay, I don't know what your personal issue is, okay, but what if a doctor told you, okay, because of that you can't defend yourself, you can't purchase a weapon or a gun, because what's to stop you from taking a knife?
But it's all it's all perspective.
Of course, everything is perspective.
Because I believe, for me, imagine that I fall into a dip, like a deep depression, right? It takes more courage for me to grab a knife and put it to myself than what it takes one moment, like 1 second,
to pull the trigger, right?
Yes,
it is. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
And I think when you tell a person, no, you cannot like have access to weapons, it's not because we're denying the right. It's because we're letting them, like, we're trying to save them.
Right. I agree with you, but you're not going to stop somebody from jumping in front of a car or jumping off a building, which is just the same as quickness.
Yes, but the probability is less by taking the guns out.
What about protecting yourself?
I agree with you, because you know what? Statistically speaking, out of the 30,000 people who die by firearms, at least 75% is through suicide. So I agree with you. But people's main argument, or the media's main argument, is that it's going to stop crime.
No, it won't stop crime because the illegal guns are still gonna exist.
Exactly. So,
and they're being passed out by the U.S. government.
But again, like an analogy that I like to use, right? Let's say you and I are chewing gum, and you start smacking. You're smacking, blowing bubbles, and she tells you to stop, and I haven't done anything, and now you continue, and she corrects you again. Hey, stop it. Okay, and then you do it again, but then blame me, and you convince her that it was me.
No
but
gum
I still
for
haven't
you.
done anything. I'm still chewing my gum the way I'm supposed to. You do it again, and then she says, and then you say, "Oh, it's me," and and I'm like, "No, it wasn't me. I swear." That's it. I don't want to deal with it. Give me your gum and give me your gum. I'm being punished for his crime. And the vast majority, and what I want to explain is, the vast majority of crimes that have occurred compared to people who've used guns in defense, okay, is far greater. Okay, because once you eliminate suicide from gun deaths, it's only about 12 to 15,000 out of the 30 that have been used in a crime or a cop shooting. You know, the gun is used in a crime. Defensively speaking, statistically from the CDC, guns have been used defensively 500,000 times to 1,000,000 times in a year.
Yes, that's a positive number, and I've read the statistics.
So,
but do you think there is a way that we can actually come into an agreement when it comes to guns?
Yeah, actually there is.
What would be your solution then?
To what scenario? Like, give me a situation.
Gun laws.
I understand, but like, see, what I'm trying to get at is the reason why people are trying to take away my gun rights, okay, my ability to get firearms, is because people are using them to kill other people, right? So, what are the situations? Let's use the last 3 mass shootings that have happened. So we have the Walmart shooting, we have the club shooting, and I believe prior to that was the government building shooting in Virginia. Okay. So all 3.
The club shooting. Which one are you talking about?
The Dayton, Ohio shooting. It was not in a club.
The one that happened like a month ago or less.
No, it was like 3 weeks ago, and it happened 12 hours after El Paso.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have the Virginia. I think it was the Virginia shooting that happened in a government building.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that people were on break, and thanks to that, there was not many people injured.
Yeah, and the employee came in and shot everybody. Okay.
Yes.
So, being that you're coming a little late into the into the episode.
Sorry.
No, not your fault. You're at work. No biggie. I can reiterate.
Thanks for apologizing.
You didn't have to apologize. But anyway, back to my point. Concealed carriers are not allowed to carry in a school, government building, or any. Right? Okay.
Yes.
So we're on the. Okay. So
for everybody wondering where this extra voice is coming from, my girlfriend is behind the camera.
Yeah. So
that's not coming from me. No.
That's very nice.
Or any of the guns on.
So what's it called? So back to my point.
Sorry.
Okay, all 3 of those, what were they? One was a government building. Okay, one was a Walmart.
Yes.
And one was a club.
And they've always been in places like that. And then you're not, if I'm not mistaken, you're not allowed to have weapons either in concerts or anything like that.
Well, those are businesses deciding to refuse service to anyone who tries to carry a firearm in there. Yes. So what I'm trying to use is a government building as an example. So I can
hear you putting your fingers on the
mic. No worries. So let's use the Virginia one. Okay, he walked into a government building where they have checkpoints to stop. You know, like when you go to a courthouse. You go to a courthouse.
And you got passed?
You get metal detected. The only people who don't get metal detected are the police officers and people. So he got through that. Okay.
You think he had somebody inside the building?
No, I don't know enough about that shooting. I didn't really read into it. What I was surprised by was the fact that right after that shooting, the whole ban suppressor thing came up.
Because suppressor what?
I think
suppressor ban.
Yeah, the whole suppressor
the silencer
conversation
thing?
about So, but he took a gun into a gun-free zone. No one is allowed to have unless you're, given permission.
Yeah.
Right. So how can anyone defend themselves? Let's talk about Walmart. Walmart would refuse. You're allowed to conceal carry in that Walmart. If I recall correctly, it had a sign. If you can legally carry a firearm, you're allowed. But if you can't legally possess it, it was weird. Either way.
Isn't it sometimes? Sorry to interrupt you. Isn't it sometimes the law that you can carry a gun as long as it's like you cannot see it?
That's concealed carry. So that's if I was covered. So as long as the gun is completely concealed. So let's say you see that holster on the bed there?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a level 2 retention holster, meaning it locks the gun in. That's one step before a police officer's holster. Okay. If I cover that with my shirt, okay, that would be concealed. You cannot see the gun. If I lift my shirt over it, that is open carry. Okay, because it's openly viewable. Okay. So while I'm concealing, okay, I can, if you don't know, let's say I'm walking through a Walmart and I'm concealed carrying and no one in the store recognizes I am concealed carrying, they can't refuse service, right?
Because they can't see it.
I would argue, right, that if someone who had been in that Walmart concealed carrying would have stopped that shooter. Because the same way, okay, so you agree then? Because
actually, isn't it that the way that the shooting got stopped because there was a bet, and he actually ran to the car?
No. What he was doing was he was outside of the Walmart after the shooting had occurred, and he was just getting people out of the store. He was getting the kids.
But he ran to the car to get his weapon. No,
he had it on him. He was at a Foot Locker. Okay. Yeah, he was at a Foot Locker. He was he was concealed carrying at a Foot Locker, and he had heard the shots and ran over, and he was getting kids out of the store while the shooting was happening and stuff like that. He chose to not make his presence known because he didn't want to attract the threat to him, and he thought, he did what any concealed carrier could have done. Yeah, you know what I mean. But look at what happened in the club. Everyone gets patted down when you go to a club. Why? Because the business doesn't want you to have a firearm. This guy blatantly walked in there, okay, and just started shooting up. He just started shooting. If anyone in that club who was a concealed carrier had been there with their firearm, I would argue that they would have stopped that shooting and 6 cops would have been shot.
But I want to argue that point.
Okay.
To be honest with you,
sure.
I don't want to go to a club and know that people around me are drinking and have weapons.
Well, technically, because there's drinking involved, they can't conceal carry there anyways.
Yeah, but like you're saying that if somebody at the club would have
been concealed carrying,
yes,
right,
that would have saved the the situation.
Right.
It would have stopped the shooting. But how many more shootings are going to happen if somebody has guns?
I would argue none. So I'm going to use a shooting.
I think there would be less. I mean, why would anybody want to shoot in a place where they could die?
I'm going to put you in a situation. It's going to be an A and B situation. And you tell me what you would decide to do, okay? So in his house is a gun-free zone. He doesn't have any guns to protect himself. All he has is his giant sword and all these guitars.
And all the guitars.
All right?
Killer riffs.
Was a blunt object, but he could rip off the string and use it and pretty much choke you out with it. Right, exactly. Whip you with it. Indiana Jones, okay? And then you have my house, where I have all this. Who are you going to rob?
Literally. Like, it's just common sense.
You have a gun. Who are you going to rob? Exactly.
I love him.
No. He's not your hubby. I'm talking about, this is Alazar. You came up to this house and
I will rob him.
And how about this? I'm the asshole neighbor who put up a sign on my lawn and said, this asshole next door to me doesn't believe in my Second Amendment right. He has no guns. I blatantly told you.
I would rob him.
You would rob him, right? So if you're gonna go to a Walmart and you're pretty much sure that no one has a gun in there, or a school.
Chances are high that
Chances are very high you're gonna choose the least threatening place, exactly. And that's what I'm arguing. See, now some people don't like the whole teach armed teachers. I don't like that, because what if a student overtakes a teacher and disarms the teacher and then uses that gun to shoot everybody? Great, all right, I agree with you. But to not have like armed personnel there, like armed security guards, it's purely just to the sooner you can address the situation, okay, and you have people who want to do this, like you literally just created a job. In that process, that's where the mental illness issue needs to come in, because now, I don't know if Alazar is just some trigger happy guy. He could just be looking for an excuse to kill people. I mean, there's a small percentage of people who do that just to join the military, just to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and become cops for that same reason.
It's true.
It gives them an excuse to kill people.
Yeah, those are usually the ones you end up seeing in the videos.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes it could have been training, but everything is scenario based, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, a good guy with a gun will always stop a bad guy with a gun. If he has a sword, and I have a bow and arrow, it all comes down to the skill. If I win or he wins. Mm-hmm. If he's faster than me and can see the arrows coming, because you can, just like in paintball, you can see the ball coming at you. Mm-hmm. It all comes down to the skill. Now the same argument could be made. Oh, the good guy with a gun sucked, and he didn't really have much training. That's failure on him.
At least there was some chance, right?
It still levels the playing field. That's why cops go in with guns. They don't go in with batons.
Yeah. You gotta have the upper hand.
I still believe, like, I completely respect what you're saying, but I still believe that there has to be a mental assessment. Then should prohibit few
So I have
some people.
I have a question.
But here's sorry.
Go ahead.
No, well, I mean, I'm a beginner at this whole thing, so from what I'm understanding, you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. Based on the forum we saw earlier,
The new one that came out in February?
Yeah.
Okay.
So based on the form that we saw earlier, you are refused the sale of a gun if you are under some sort of antidepressants or depressants or any stimulants.
Or if you've been diagnosed with a mental illness. But if you lie on that form, okay, then and the background check doesn't come up with that mental illness.
But I don't think you should fill out the form. I think you need to go to a psychologist and be evaluated.
I'll create a scenario for you where your situation would play out, okay? So let's say they deem that every 6 months, every firearm owner should receive a psych evaluation. What would you classify, or how about this? Who would you hire to determine what disorder or illness would be alarming or a flag that person could commit a mass shooting or is potential to harm someone else?
There is assessments that you can take, and it can be given to people that would determine their stability on their mind and on their emotions.
So what flags would you look for? Like could you give me at least 3 examples of something that you believe would be a red flag to say, okay, if Alizard kills his cat,
I would be able to tell you that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would be able to completely tell you that if I was a psychologist, but I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot tell you what the red flags are for a mental instability, because I cannot tell you that. But I do know there are assessments that people can take, and it will evaluate that.
So would you say a sociopath would be one?
Somebody
someone who's sociopathic or a psychopath, because there are functioning sociopaths in our society.
Definitely. Definitely they are. They are.
And I don't. And if they're so intent on killing, I think we would see a lot more mass shootings or chain murders. Because sociopaths and psychopaths share the same tendencies. The only difference is a psychopath does not make any connection whatsoever. So would you say that person doesn't deserve to have a firearm to defend themselves?
I'm sorry. We go back to what I just said earlier. I'm not a psychologist.
You're not a psychologist,
but just the basic idea, though.
It's the basic idea. It's honestly, and then also, who would you trust to hire those psychologists to determine that for you?
Well, while you think about it, the part I'm finding tough is the fact that, like, no matter who you hire, no matter who you're evaluating, like, everybody also has their own bias.
Exactly.
Like, their biases, I guess. Like, let's say the psychologist that's being used to assess is, like, an NRA lover. Like, they're going to, like, fight to do a certain thing. Like, they're going to have their own agenda. Like, everybody has... like, you just can't eliminate emotions from the equation as much as people like to. Like, that's how we end up, like, that's why it's all stuck in gray, because it's hard to eliminate that.
And also, most people's answer is, the government. So now you're giving, I'm telling you, people that I've spoken to, the government should decide that. They'll determine that. The CDC will determine that. Okay, so you're now relinquishing power to the government, when the whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to defend yourself from the government.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
Now you're giving them power to decide whether you deserve the right to defend yourself from them.
Here's
That's
the
like
question.
me telling the robber, hey, give me a second. You tell me what you think I should not have so that you can rob me.
Yeah, I mean, how does dictatorship happen?
I mean,
that's an actual question. Like, how does that, does that happen because they take the power away from the people, don't they?
So people confuse dictatorship with communism because they both go hand in hand, right?
With socialism.
Yeah, socialism as well. But communism on paper, I mean, even for me, is perfect.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
But it only works on paper.
Because human beings destroy it. You understand what I'm saying?
With me?
Okay.
But that's common sense. What is there to disagree with?
No. A lot of
a
people.
doctor and a janitor should get paid the same?
Is the utopia that I believe the left want, and that's why they're all for Bernie and the democratic socialism. But once you add the human error, that's it. It's gone, and it will never happen unless we all reject our emotion, just like an equilibrium or Fahrenheit 451, is the only way that it would work.
Right, and that's like
you see
that.
What I'm saying?
But honestly, the only thing that separates us between computers is emotion.
I'm going to use. You asked how does dictatorship happen,
yes.
right? In our system, Hitler gave us an example of how that fails. He went to Austria, and was voted into office. He came in as a socialist, said the Socialist Party is doing this in Germany, this and that, and everything's been great. Everyone has jobs, and Austria was suffering, just like Venezuela. The whole, no one has food, no one has water, nothing. He came in there, promised them everything, and they voted him into office. Not even 2 years later, he started saying, crime is through the roof. We need to get the criminals. We need to take the guns from the criminals.
Propaganda.
And then he told everyone, if everyone registers their guns, we'll be able to get the criminals. Not even a year after that. Okay, now we're taking the guns from the criminals. And everyone who was fighting back was labeled as a criminal.
Ooh,
and then within a year and a half of that, disarmed a whole country without any soldiers walking in. And it wasn't until then is when you start seeing Nazi Germany and Austria.
And then they're like, how did they just take over, though?
Exactly.
How did that just happen? Nothing just happens. Like,
so
it's weird.
So with that being said, right, it's kind of, I believe in living and learning from our history. History is a big part, right?
To.
So like I don't agree with what the Confederates did or what their ideology was at all. I believe
there's cherry picking.
It's no. For me, when it comes to the Confederates, it's more of, okay, these are Americans who are defending an American way of life. Just the same way as we defend our American way of life, right? What if the tables had turned? Our idea or our American way of life would be what they were fighting for, right? So for me, when someone steps on the Confederate flag, I'm not defending their ideology. I'm defending, just the same way as I defend my American flag, these are Americans who died for an American way of life. And we should have a little bit of respect for that. Just I'm not saying, even as dirty and as disgusting as their ideology was, that was how America was running at the time. Okay? And just how, that's where it goes hand in hand, right? But we have to recognize we have a modern day Hitler in Venezuela right now. And everyone is blind to that. They literally registered all the guns. Only private citizens. You had to be part of a gun club.
Damn,
and now they're all gone.
Damn, I didn't know that.
They're completely disarmed, and they're throwing rocks and sticks. Look at France.
That's what I'm saying.
And
that ain't cool.
Las bombas lacrimógenas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Molotovs.
Molotovs. That's all they have, and they're wasting valuable resources just to try to fight back against a military force they can't handle.
Yeah. What are they gonna do?
And that is showing up to them completely armed on tanks and.
Yeah, like what are they gonna do? But that's what I'm saying.
Though. Here, what's awesome about America? We can buy tanks. We can buy planes.
Yeah, we can actually. It's true. You just need the money. But think about how many people in it, like how many in overseas, how many of those armies and whatever they are, like those groups are private armies.
Yeah,
that a lot of them are just bought by billionaires to like they hire armies.
I'll give you a situation. Let's make Trump. Okay, I am a Trump supporter. Okay, I will vote for him in 2020. But let's do this. I know we said we'd keep politics out of it, but I'm going to use a scenario. Let's make Trump in a scenario where he is the bad guy that he's made out to be. And he, how when he met with what's his name, the Russian president, everyone's like, they're buddy.
Putin?
Yeah, with Putin. Okay.
Putin.
So with Putin, right? Okay. So let's say, okay. All right, so Trump is the bad guy. He's the next Nazi Hitler. And how is he going to take over America and turn us into the Nazi Hitler that we all make him out to be? Well, all he has to do is enact martial law.
Yeah.
The U.S. president has had power of martial law since Teddy Roosevelt in World War II. Okay? The last 5-star general we had was in Vietnam, where the president gave all military right to the 5-star general. And that meant all of our military power was reliant on this one person. That person could have enacted martial law and governed and fought the American government. Wow. Okay? That's the amount of power that the president has. Okay? Now, Trump has this power. So let's say he does enact martial law. Great. Who do you think is going to police us? Do you think our own soldiers would come over here and police their own citizens? No. I guarantee you at least 80 to 75% of our own soldiers would fall out. And whoever's left, they just don't care, right? So he made a deal with Putin. Hey, I need an army. Sure, my Russian army would definitely love to police some American people. Guess what, baby? So our army makes up roughly about 5% of our population.
Really?
In Florida alone, there's 4.3 million people.
Yeah.
2.6 million are registered concealed weapons licensors. That would argue that one firearm per licensee, right? Let's argue about Texas. How many people have guns? We would say at least 80%, right? Because it's a pretty big population. I think it's 11 million strong.
Okay.
So let's say 80% of those people have guns. We just outnumbered our military force by 2 states.
Wow. Boom. Interesting.
With 1 gun per person.
Imagine the people buying multiple and the heavy duty shit. And
now add in
stuff.
Arizona with the most. Let's use the states with the most lax gun laws: Arizona, Texas, Georgia, Florida. Okay, all the southern states that were Confederate states, except for I don't think Texas was. No, if I recall,
I'd be surprised.
I think Texas was. I think Texas was in the Confederate Army.
Okay.
But I'll be correct if anybody wants to correct me.
Yeah, if anybody knows that, feel free to drop that in. Was Texas a Confederate state or not?
I think the founding fathers understood that the largest standing army right now is in China. Okay, and there's over, I want to say 50% of firearms are owned by Americans in the world.
Wow.
And there's 300. I think it was 380 firearms sold last year. 380 million guns sold last year.
That's some heavy shit.
Because all of Europe is pretty much not allowed to own firearms.
Yeah.
England. No, look at the problems they're having. They're having knife issues now. They're talking about banning knives.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Look,
I mean, like, and people are like running over people.
Yes, it was.
Huh?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was, right? That's what I thought.
There you
go. So these are the things that we have to think about. People think, oh no, the times are different. That'll never happen. Look at Venezuela.
It will happen.
Look at Cuba. It wasn't even that long ago.
We don't go too far. It wasn't the same thing happening? I believe it was in Brazil.
Yeah. No.
And then almost
Russia did it.
Almost
the
whole South America. It's going through dictatorship.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at. So that is why it is so important for the left or the right, whatever side you're on, okay, as a community. The Second Amendment is the most important amendment because it protects all the others.
I agree with you, but I think there has to be.
But who are you going to give the power to? See, that's where I was asking you.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't have the solution.
Okay.
But like, I'm not telling you that I have the perfect.
You would just like for there to be one.
But I think there has to be.
There should be, right? Because we're so advanced and we're such intellectual people. There should be a solution to come to that. The issue is the human error.
Yeah.
Anyone can have a bad day. Anyone. Right. You could have a bad day.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
It wasn't too long ago I had a horrible day. I'm not an aggressive person.
Right.
But it wasn't too long ago that I was at a place and I had such a bad day that I had a beer in my hand and I just threw it against the wall.
Yeah.
And just like that was a beer for somebody else, like nothing that I feel like proud of, but like we have to like
definitely. I get upset
to our things, and then just like it happened to me, it could happen to anybody.
Exactly. But that's the issue. Like, to address mental illness is like saying, okay, well, you're not going to be human anymore. Okay, so until you're not human and completely robotic,
no protection for you.
No protection for you. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I wish there was a way. I really do, and I hope one day we can come. If the people who are opposed to firearms and stuff could just accept a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun, that would be the first step to a solution.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it is the fastest. Because it takes too long. You weren't here earlier in the episode, but I stopped the stabbing when I came home 6 months after the army. Okay, I didn't have my gun, but I used my car. I did something, and I saved someone's life. Granted, he got deported because he was an illegal immigrant. He lost 2 fingers, but he didn't bleed out and die that night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need my gun to defend myself. I don't need my gun to defend other people. But would that guy have been stabbed? Would I had to make a tourniquet? Would I had to chase them on the highway? No, if I had my gun, I would have shot them. I would have given them warning first. Okay, I'm going to address this. You don't just shoot first and ask questions later. If you are ever in a situation where something does happen and you do happen to have your firearm, you need to assess, observe, and because once you draw your firearm, you are taking responsibility for everyone in this room. Everyone. Every life is on you. Yeah. Okay, that is the responsibility. I don't know if you know what it takes to get a concealed weapons license, but I tell you right now, that is the most vetted civilian that's not in a government position in this country. Okay, I have to give up my fingerprints. I have to give up a photo ID. Okay, I have to pass a background check, just like and actually goes to it's the highest background check for top secret for secret clearance. It's the same background check,
like FBI type shit.
Yeah,
wow.
Is
so like
the one that is like 120?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so like for me, when I was in the military, I had top secret clearance on a need to know basis. Okay, so that's how extensive I was vetted. So when I got my concealed weapons license, it didn't take long for me to get it, but that's because I'd already been, my government experience.
You went through your thing, yeah.
You know what I mean? But the average person goes through that, right. And now they're carrying that gun with no legal, knowledge. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it depends, and because the government says, well, you're certified now because you have to do a pistol course, you have to do a basic firearm pistol course, okay, or a firearm course to understand the basics of how firearms work and everything like that. They don't teach you a lot of legal jargon. They just teach you the basics, so stand your ground, castle law, But aside from that, it's all situational, and you can make one wrong mistake, and that could cost you your life, your house, your family, okay? Yeah. You know what I mean?
So there's a lot at stake there, guys.
There's a lot of stake, and for someone to vet themselves, just to have the ability to carry a firearm, to take on that risk to protect your life and my life, why wouldn't you want them in everywhere that they are? Aside from a government building, I agree, because that can be used again, it could be used against us, right? Well, he was a concealed carrier, and that's why, and because there was no more gun-free zones, and we compromised and let concealed carriers carry wherever they want to go.
Well, that's like everything in life. There is three stories: your point of view, my point of view, and in reality, what it happens.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna step outside really quick, but I still believe, I don't think we should give up on the rights. But I do believe that there needs to be
a solution.
It's a problem that needs to be issued.
So would you say that you and I agree that a good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so then would you also agree that if there were no more gun-free zones, as far as outside of government buildings?
Oh, back to what you were saying earlier, the school thing.
Yeah.
I don't agree with teachers and professors being trained with guns, but I do agree that securities in hallways should have the weapons.
Okay, so why not? What's the difference between the person going through security training? I actually been through the security training and stuff. Most security companies that have armed licensed guards, they're just there to deter. They're not allowed to draw their firearms, like Allied Universal. They don't want their employees drawing their guns because the company is liable for anything that employee does.
Oh, definitely.
Like a stray bullet or something?
So, yeah, no. Not even just that. Just for him shooting. Because, again, just like the old lady.
Repercussions and stuff.
The old lady, and the company could get sued. Oh, he shot me in the shoulder, right? And that was going into another argument about why I would kill the person instead of injuring. Well, he shot me in the shoulder. Now I can't use my arm anymore. He can sue me for the equity on my house and stuff like that. Jesus. And argue, okay, now I need
because you compromise his whole life.
Exactly. Whereas the dead don't speak,
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? So that's where it's just like, okay, we have to come up with a solution, but you can't eliminate the human error.
Well, I think there should be security companies should allow, like,
they won't because of capitalism. They simply won't.
Exactly. In a perfect world where everybody gives up a little bit, I think there should be the ones trained. Not in reality, not professors.
But why not? Well, what's different?
I think a professor has more of a direct relationship with a student.
Okay.
And there has been cases. Okay. Again, you cannot judge everybody for one case. Of course. There has been cases.
No, cases are evidence. Situations are evidence.
Where teachers get upset to the kids and they hit them. Imagine what they would do with a gun.
I don't think the kids would misbehave that would warrant the teacher beating them if they knew the professor had a gun.
But then, do we really want our kids to grow up with fear?
I mean, they did for a very long time before the 90s, where they removed paddling, and look at how kids are now. They used to paddle kids back in the 80s and before that. Yeah, all of our parents, if you ask anybody who's been to a Catholic school or a public school, got hit, how do you misbehave?
I try not to.
You try not. Well, when I say misbehave, are you more cautious to not doing something mischievous like licking ice cream? or you understand what I'm saying, or that's what I'm trying to get at. I think our problem with mass shootings right now with the younger crowd has to do with the lack of discipline from because a lot of the Generation Z had to do with a lot of single moms and no dads and stuff like that, and a lot of divorcees. Yeah. That's what our generation grew up with.
For sure.
Okay, so what was mom doing? Oh, just do whatever do you, and then there was no structure. And it also varies by race. Like Hispanics, it's a little different. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about the discipline and respecting the teachers. None of the kids respect the teachers nowadays.
No.
I mean, there's teachers losing their jobs. You have teachers quitting because they're tired of the system. There's no power for the teacher because the teacher is scrutinized by the government, teachers scrutinized by the parents, and they're also getting slack by the kids. Why do you want to be a teacher?
Underpaid.
And underpaid at the same time.
So what's my conclusion of this conversation?
Sure, okay.
I think the issue doesn't only come from guns.
No, it doesn't.
I think our government
Societal
should reevaluate a lot of our policies
of course.
And laws, including from education, and maybe.
I mean, it's a whole societal thing as to the solution, but to blame a tool versus the act of the person. You understand? Because if you watch any mass shooting, go on YouTube and watch news videos, they're going to plaster that person's face. And then there's like, he used an AR-15, Tom. He used an assault rifle. This person used an assault. All you're going to hear is, it's the tool's fault. It's the tool's fault.
I don't like guns.
I agree.
Personally,
okay, that's fine.
Personally, I don't like guns.
Okay.
But I respect those that have it. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
My anxiety is killing me having guns here.
Okay.
No, but I know they're not like, they don't have.
I think that's, okay, so let's go back to what I touched on. Have you shot a gun before?
Yes.
You have shot?
Well.
Sorry, look, can you bring the mic to your mouth?
I think so.
You think you shot a gun?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't remember.
Okay.
If it had the bullets.
Or were you just holding it?
No. Okay. Or if it had the ones that are like not really bullets.
The blank.
But it was in Seattle.
It was in Seattle. Okay.
Yes, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
And we were like in the forest, like.
Okay, so you probably did shoot a real bullet. Did you shoot just one round and then that was it?
Oh yeah,
and that's it, and you let go, right?
Yeah.
Because you were pretty scared.
Yes.
You have to get past that.
And
once you get past that, I know it's going to be difficult because we have personal things that are going on. But that's what we touched on earlier. Your fear is the reason why you don't like it, because it's unknown. You understand what it is. You understand that this could kill you.
You understand what it does.
You understand what it does, but you don't. What you haven't understand and connected the dot was, you're in control.
No, definitely, and that's what I say.
Speaking of you're in control, I gotta take a piss.
I'm not against guns. I'm not against people carrying guns, but I think I go back to the same thing. I do not have the solution, but I do believe there has to be.
Well, if anybody in the chat does have that solution, feel free to drop it in, because I would love to hear that too. Because until then, we will be sitting here wishing and hoping, and that'd be great. But I'm like I said, I'm not on either side of it. I just want to see people be able to protect themselves, no matter what it is, no matter what the situation is.
I think if you're up for it, I do this a lot with people. I'd be more than glad to take you to the gun range. We'll start here in the house to work on that anxiety, so that when you do go to the range, it wouldn't be so anxious. You won't be so fearful. You know what I mean? Like, we can train and we can work up until you think you're ready. But once you attach the idea, I'm in control, right? How do you drive your car? You know what I mean? Like, you drive.
According to him, like reckless.
Reckless, right?
According to me, or according to the average driving laws?
He can't tell you anything about how you drive, right? Because you're in control.
Yes.
Same thing. You're in control. This doesn't control you. You're in control. And once you put that idea in your head and you understand that and accept that, you will never be afraid of this thing, because you will understand this thing can't do anything if I'm behind it.
There you have it, guys.
Yes.
So once you do that, and after all that, you still decide you don't like firearms, at least you're making an educated decision, and not a fearful decision.
My respects for that. Yes, you're more than right about that. And not too long ago, I was talking to Alice, and I was telling him, like, if he would be willing to go to a range, because I'm a believer that I like to overcome my fears.
Of course.
And this has been a fear. I grew up in a really nice environment, and my parents had a gun, and I was always a really curious person.
Of course.
So
aren't human beings curious people?
Yes,
Yeah.
they had it like
that's how we know stuff.
hidden, and I grew up with that, like with a taboo about guns.
Okay.
Because my family is a conservative family.
Okay.
Conservative enough to own a gun, though.
No. They were holding it for an uncle.
Can I mention that I grew up in a household where I saw my father's firearm once my whole entire life. I saw it when I was 5 years old. I held it in my hands, and that was the last time I ever. It was unloaded, just like how these are. These are completely safe. But that was the only time and my only experience. I never went to a gun range until I joined the Army.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to explain to you was I wasn't fearful of firearms, and I guess because I had been robbed at gunpoint, not robbed, but held at gunpoint twice in my life before I graduated high school with him. That at that point I already understood it's either I'm going to be the fearful or I'm going to be the one in control, and I did not like the fact that that person held my life against me, and knowing that I could have done something to give them that same fear. I'm the type of person, like, you make me feel a certain way, I'm going to make you feel that way.
Twice as bad, right?
Exactly. So if you hold that power over me, right, that anxiety, imagine giving that to someone else, how they would feel.
Yeah.
Could you imagine making him feel the anxiety you feel because let's say he doesn't understand how you feel, and there's a way to give him that so that he finally sees from your perspective? It's the same idea. Someone's holding a gun to you and they're about to, they can take your life in a split second. That fear and anxiety, knowing that you have the opportunity to flip the table on them, is power. Like it's a nature thing.
It is the definition of power.
It is the definition of power. You've leveled the playing field.
It's interesting, man. It's interesting. Everybody sit there and marinate on that. We were 2 hours into the show, so we definitely got to, I don't mean to cut it because we're having such a good time, but yeah, I do want to ask 2 quick questions that were asked in the chat.
I didn't
first.
see anything.
Well, sorry, this is from the Instagram post.
Instagram, awesome. I'll definitely answer some answers.
Victor from the Instagram post asks, what's the definition of a well-regulated militia? And do you think someone with an AR can realistically stop an oppressive government taking over, I guess he's asking?
Yeah, we touched base on that. I don't know if Victor's still listening or watching, but yeah, we definitely touched based on that. So for example, right, the AR-15 has never been a military weapon. Okay, it is based off of a military weapon. Now, what I could do, maybe we do a second episode. I'll have just one AR here with me, and I can break it down and show you what the difference is between a M16 and a AR-15. But essentially, a civilian AR-15 you cannot make automatic without actually milling metal out. So they are sold. Yeah, they make it so that you cannot make it automatic without actually milling out metal and making the space for the actual thing that makes it automatic.
So you got to want it.
Yeah, you essentially have to convert an AR-15 to be automatic, and you have to mill metal out. You have to get the part, which is so heavily regulated. I cannot say, to get a manufactured AR-15 right now would be $20,000. So Alizar, I'm going to walk you through what it is to buy an automatic weapon. Whoa. You have $20,000 in your pocket because you won the gold million, whatever, right?
Sure.
So you decide, Ruben, I want to buy an automatic. I'm like, you've never shot a gun before. I don't care. I got all this money. Okay, cool. All right, let's buy you an automatic. Okay. So now you just dropped $20,000 on a firearm.
Right.
Okay, you're not going to touch it for 2 years. You have to submit a form to the ATF.
Meaning you won't get it for 2 years.
Essentially, yeah, until you get approval from the ATF to pick it up.
Okay.
Or to own it. So you have to get approval from the ATF. On top of that, you have to get approval from your chief of police in the county to give you permission to have that weapon in his county. Okay. And then on top of that, you're out $20,000 for 2 years until you get that approval. But then after that, right, you give up your right to privacy, because what happens is you sign a form stating that ATF has the right to come inspect your home and your firearm, okay, with 24-hour
like
notice.
Like a repo man? Like
within 24-hour notice. Wow. And if it's not properly stored and kept, they can take it from you.
No way, dude. So,
now you're out $20,000 in a rifle and no privacy. And no privacy.
Who knows what else they're watching?
You still have privacy, but they have the right to come within 24 hours. So let's say everyone claims, all the mass shootings were used. There were automatic guns. Yeah, okay. So if an actual automatic was used, the ATF would hit every person's house who's registered and has an automatic firearm because they gave them permission to have it.
So within those 24 hours, people
I would say within the hour.
We're getting like raided, basically.
Pretty much, hey, we're showing up. They get a phone call from the ATF agent that's assigned to you because you have an ATF agent that's assigned.
Okay.
And you have to actually tell them when you're going to take the firearm somewhere.
Wow.
So when you have to let them, like, hey, I'm going to the gun range, you know. And then,
so if anything happens, they know that you cleared
that the firearm has moved. Yeah.
That's regulation.
That's regulation. I mean, I don't know what more you could want. I mean, if someone had a suppressor, like the Virginia shooting, the guy had a suppressor. I don't know if it was legally owned or not. I doubt it. I doubt that was legally owned, because if he did, I don't know. It could have been legally owned. For argument's sake, let's say it was. Okay. The ATF knew he had it.
Right.
Okay, and he used it in a crime. That's it. There's nothing you can do to stop that. But he's been vetted. The police chief gave him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it just goes to that. Any other questions?
Well, the other question we got was, what do we think about more extensive background checks? But I think we covered that a lot. Yeah. Is that, I mean, I think they're pretty extensive.
Victor asked about the definition of a well-regulated militia.
Yes.
So the definition of a well-regulated militia is just a group of civilians who. So a militia is meant to protect the state. It's a security of the state. So let's say you and I started a militia. At any time, let's say during this hurricane right now, as a militia, our job is to help out. That's what we're signing up for and claiming to be a militia. It's not just, we're a militia and we're here to defend ourselves in case of Second Amendment. No, yeah, you know what I mean? Like your job, what you're signing, or you're volunteering yourself for and putting yourself at scrutiny for is that if something happens in this state, I will be a response to it. That's why it says the security of a free state.
Yeah.
Okay?
No.
And what's regulated militia? It's just like your own little military. Most militias that are ran.
Mad Max.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say Mad Max, but yeah, so that's just that, you know, that's what I would define a well-regulated
like guerrilla warfare. Right? It's a street army.
Or
that's why bands.
What's the game? Oh man,
the Warriors. I don't know.
No. Oh, it's Ghost Recon and like Grand Theft Auto.
Not Saints Row.
No.
Ghost Recon and Grand Theft Auto. Which one is that one?
Yeah, it's
sounds like fun.
yeah, it is. Wildlands. You have Wildlands, and then you have the
Tom Clancy game, SOCOM. I don't know.
It's Tom Clancy's the one who made it.
No idea.
Departed. I can't remember.
The one with the gun. Right. But that's amazing, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the show today,
course,
man. You dropped so much knowledge. I'm excited to listen back to this because I'm like, man, I got to absorb.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And we didn't really go in order. We didn't really go into like firearms safety.
No, it was a free one.
You know, I think this was just like a way to start off, and then from here.
Yeah, definitely. Then we get to dive in a little bit more. But I think you brought an amazing collection. You brought a piece of history. We got to talk. We got to go over some actual legitimate government forums.
Yeah,
we got to talk about a lot of stuff that I didn't even expect myself. So it was a good learning experience for me, my man. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming by, man. It's been a long time since I've seen you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you everybody in the chat for hanging out today. It was a lit one. Thank you, friends. Thank you everybody for hanging out. Episode 91 of Shut Up, Let's Talk. Ruben, if they want to follow you, where can they follow you at? Man, if you want them to follow you.
I mean, I don't really stay on social media like that, but if anything, add me on Facebook or message me if you have any more questions, or if you want to go to the gun range, let me know.
Yeah, and you do classes, so if you want to learn, you know, Ruben's a guy for some questions. Maybe you should make some videos at some point. That might be cool.
I can't anymore. YouTube doesn't allow that. They
don't.
They censored that, and that's why Facebook is censoring stuff like that. I was kind of concerned we were going to get taken down for this.
I was thinking about that too. You never know. Whatever. It is what it is, guys. At the end of the day, we're going to say what we got to say. It's the Shut Up, Let's Talk way, folks. In the meantime, guys, if you guys want to follow me, it's at Alizar Chained. If you guys want to follow the show, it's at Shut Up, Let's Talk all over the internet, the webosphere, the globus, whatever. Excuse me. Until next time, folks, love, peace, chicken grease. And if you guys are going to be handling any guns, be safe. And look both ways before you cross the street.
Remember, treat it as if it's always loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger, and don't point at anything you don't plan on shooting. 3 cardinal rules.
Never forget them, guys, for real, because that I think that will prevent most fuck ups.
It'll prevent majority of all of them.
Yes. Anyway, folks, later.
Take care, guys.
Peace.